Hey guys, good morning. I hope you're having a great day. I wanted to come on here all week to talk about something really good, which came up in a conversation. I think it's really helpful to bring it forward to you. Now, I'm sorry, there's a little bit of fog here, so I have to pay attention to the road, but you'll definitely hear me even if I don't have massive eye contact. So I placed the camera in a way that it looks like I'm looking at you, but I'm actually looking forward. But yeah, the car shares are pretty good, but of course when it's bad weather it's really tough to record, and I'm hoping that because the weather is okay, it's not raining, just foggy. It looks like I'm in a vampire movie. It's clearer, the sound is clearer. So I had a conversation with one of my clients which I thought was really insightful, and really shared some interesting points about how people feel and think about nutrition, but also the connotation of nutrition and diet that sometimes can feel a little bit skewed. Diet is always something that is tough, because what diet really means is a way of eating, is a way of bringing into your body macro and micronutrients at a balanced level so that you can keep your health. By health, I mean you can give your cells the food they need, you can give the mitochondria the nutrients they need to perform, which is mostly water-soluble vitamins, actually, like vitamin B and C, some minerals like magnesium, and so on. And then, of course, the macros that help us get energy and build muscles and tissues, like of course the carbohydrates that give us glucose, which is our powerhouse preferred way of creating energy, that even the mitochondria use for ATP, and then of course the protein, which are amino acid blocks that create all tissues in our body, literally everything in our body, and then of course the fats, which are important for making sure that, for example, we absorb some vitamins which are fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D, A, and so on. So it's quite this is what really a diet, the word diet means. But in our society, diet has become synonymous with restriction for a certain amount of period to achieve a goal, which generally is weight loss. And that is a disservice really to us, to ourselves, because restriction always leads to bad places, mostly because we are not meant to restrict ourselves for a very extended period of time without consequences, which for a lot of people, because most people are emotionally eating as well, will trigger an attachment that, or like a reaction to that attachment that they feel has been disconnected, because we always eat. I'm an emotional eater, so I can speak for that, and a lot of people are. I mean, I think the majority of people eat emotionally, which is not a criticism. It's just that life, and then the way that we are brought up, and and I think the subliminal messages of what food means to us in society. So especially in the West, that's the case. But people just see it that way, right? So it triggers, when you're restricting, it triggers all sorts of things, including things like when you stop the diet, you just go crazy. Well, I've dieted, I lost the 5 kilos I wanted to lose, now I can go nuts. And I see this over and over, and it's not just from my clients who are openly sharing with me, but actually people that in normal conversation would say it, especially over the holidays. It's amazing. We're like, oh well, I've been on the diet for like 5 months, I lost the weight I wanted to lose, and now I'm like, it's Christmas, I want to eat crap every day, and it's January and I still haven't stopped. So it's a very interesting concept, but that attachment to food is completely normal. That emotional attachment to food is normal. So my client actually asked me, he said, okay, after 2 weeks of having this diet or eating this way, do you think I could have normal food? Which was such an interesting question, a cool question, and I'm glad he asked it, because I said, that's interesting that you say normal food, like what you're eating now is not normal, but what you're eating now is whole foods and vegetables and fruit and whole grains and nuts and seeds. Like, What's not normal about it? Of course, normal means by standards and the standards of most people, normal means I want to eat whatever I want to eat. That could be McDonald's, right? So interesting to see that question come up. But I also said, okay, although it's really unpolite for me to answer a question with a question, forgive me, but I'm going to ask this because I want you to come to the answer yourself, okay? And I said, how long did it take you to get sick and to get to the point you're now where you have to change your lifestyle to get healthy? And he thought about it, and he realized that it took a long time. This started a long time ago. So I said, do you think that in 2 weeks you can reverse it or we can fix it? And he said, no, I don't think so. I said, okay. So I said, I am not trying to put you on a diet. This is not a diet. This is not about restriction. I want you to actually eat abundantly. What we are doing here is create a new routine and a new approach for you to feel empowered with the decisions you're making right this moment with your food. And so this is probably a question of, all over of ages, because everyone probably thinks about diet in a very restricted way and then forgets that the changes that we make every day with lifestyle are key components to a massive change. It's a drop in the water that creates a bigger ripple effect. And a lot of clients, and my successful clients, the ones that really do it well, are the ones that get this concept, and when they start eating differently to what they used to, they don't see it as restriction, they see it as improvement, and they see it as change, versus the ones that in the past, and even now probably will see, if they fail, and I hate using that word, but let's just say, for argument's sake, fail, is because they have looked at this approach not as lifestyle change, but as diet, as restriction, as reduction. Well, reduction is not necessarily a bad thing, but restriction, right? And this is the mindset that needs to be changed. So the fog is lifted. That's beautiful. I can see again. And I feel that this is really important to bring forth in our conversations on here and on any platform where I share, because the mindset needs to be changed so that your lifestyle can change and so that your results can change. Einstein said you can't do the same thing and expect a different outcome. That's insanity. It is insanity. So we want to make sure that we don't act like we are insane and we actually make good choices. And this is what I do in my work, and this is why I share. And one of the things one of the tools I want to give you is of course, the mindset. That comes with really practice. So one of the tools that can help you every day is actually journaling and making sure that every day you remind yourself why you're on this path. When I teach my pillars of health, and I give the workbooks that people can use to actually remind themselves, one of the first thing is know your why. Why are you doing this? And it requires a daily reminder, because again, you are rewiring your brain, which is a beautiful thing that happens through neuroplasticity, which is, again, science has found that our brain is not static, thank God, that we can change, create new connections, new pathway, and actually increase our gray matter and create, new synapses. And with new synapses, we create more intelligent connections. We can shift our mindset. We can move somebody from depression to being completely content just by working on our brain. We can improve our memory. We can do so much. Our brain is fantastic, and the medical field doesn't know half of it, doesn't know a quarter of it actually. This thing is so powerful. So for me, the other aspect of working with my clients is this: you are investing in your long-term health, and not just physiologically, but also when it comes to your neurological health. I'm banking really on the fact that they can be sharp when they are in their 80s and 90s or 70s. We see Alzheimer's and dementia being a big problem, and in the aging population especially, which breaks my heart, because I don't know what I would do if my brain left the building, like if my memories went and I couldn't recognize the people around me. I feel that that for me, that's worse than any other disease that I can come up with. Like I easily take cancer over dementia, easily. Now I'm not wishing myself to do that, but you know what I mean. I honestly, the mind is so important. I would never want to lose this gift of connection, especially when from here we're connecting to source, and I want my pineal gland to be open. Now there are ways that we work on that, and I'm not going to talk about it in this episode, but I will share in a future one about how we can keep our brain sharp. But there are many resources out there, and I think you really need to start looking at it. But food is important. Scientifically proven, science is never 100%, unfortunately, black and white. It's not 100% certain of anything, but there are some things that you definitely see a trend and statistic validation and validity and importance when you look at certain things. A healthy whole food diet has been proven to be amazing for the brain. So, and it makes sense because the brain is connected to the gut via the gut-brain axis. So our microbiome is essential. And you will always hear me talk about the microbiome when we talk about any health issues. So, and again, guys, I'm not trying to say that we do it perfectly when we know these things. Quite honestly, I'm working on my health all the time. It's like a full-time job for me as well, but it's worth it because ultimately I wanna have the energy. I wanna have the vitality. I wanna have the longevity. If I have to be on this planet, I wanna be with it until I pass out and I pass away, because the last thing I can fathom is losing it. Losing your brain, losing your sharpness, losing your awareness. Oh my goodness, like I couldn't think of unless I become like this really crazy old lady that doesn't remember anything but lives happily ever after in nature thinking she's a fairy, which probably won't happen. So I really don't want to lose it. And then the other tools to give you is obviously, work with somebody that understands that, but also understands how to work with you personally, because we all need tweaking. We need certain different nutrients at a certain level and so on. And I think we need to understand what each person requires in order to really achieve our best performance. Not everybody is the same, and as much as our human body works with certain things the same way, sure, it will perform in a brilliant way with fiber, and even then fiber is amazing for the microbiome, but not everybody can actually have it if they don't have a good microbiome, if they have dysbiosis. So you have to, if that's the case for you, where if you eat something with a lot of fiber, you are in pain, you have IBS or whatever, you need to figure out how to slowly rebuild the gut. And this is something I talked to Dr. Will Boltzowitz about, and it's amazing to discuss that with him because he's so aware and so smart, and I have enjoyed all his two books, and he's always sharing amazing content, and he gets it, and that's a good doctor, good gastroenterologist. So I'm 100%, I understand, I'm a fiber lover, and yes, I had IBS before. I can eat a lot of fiber, but if I go that little bit over, I feel it. And so I'm like, okay, so there's more work to do. And it's okay, there's always more work to do. Especially because I'm a woman in my 40s, my hormones are changing, and if I had started what I'm doing now in my 20s, I'm sure I'll be in a better place, but I didn't, so gotta deal with it. And then the other tools that I found really helpful, and I want to talk about this in a separate episode, but I'm gonna just mention it here, that really helps a lot of people, is intermittent fasting. But I want to talk about this in another episode because there's a very different ways of doing intermittent fasting, and I think the way that works the best is restricted eating, where you eat for 8 hours and fast for 16. That's what I generally do, and I found it to be amazing for my body. I actually managed to lose visceral fat, and I still have muscle mass, and I'm really lean, and I'm loving the body I have now that I didn't have in my 20s. So and I eat a lot, but I eat 8 hours, and I eat a lot. I eat a lot of, in the morning especially, my calorie intake is quite high. I easily hit 1,000 calories, but I also I don't eat late at night. I listen to my circadian system as well, and I'm sleeping so much better, which has made a massive difference in my fat content, because even if I sleep 6 hours, I'm sleeping really deeply, and I fall asleep incredibly quick. I only occasionally get up in the middle of the night if I have to pee, which I tend not to do anymore because I try not to drink late at night. And it depends also the content of liquids I'm having during the day. And I've noticed that if I have like more lattes with like chicory or whatever, I pee more. So I have to like have more like herbal teas that I pee immediately after, but then I'm done. So it's interesting. I'm noticing all these little things. Of course, this is not a scientific study. It's just my personal anecdote, but it's still valid because that's what I'm noticing. So you can notice it too. But I found that intermittent fasting done that way really does work, and science actually support the time reduction, because the time of day might have a bigger impact on our body composition than actually just intermittent fasting. And I like to say that everybody intermittent fasts unless you don't sleep ever and you're eating through the night. We actually all intermittent fasting. It's just that the fast generally lasts a little bit shorter for some people, because as soon as they get up they eat again, and they eat really late at night, and so they have maybe a 6 hours fast or 8 hours if they're lucky. They go to bed with a full tummy, which is not great for the microbiome, digestion and cellular healing during the night, and so on. So of course there are things that you have to look at and you have to analyze, but generally we all intermittent fast when we sleep. That's why we call breakfast, because we're breaking the fast. So that's the first thing to actually pay attention to, okay? But then there is the more mindful, strategic fasting approach, which is what I just mentioned, or people do a full day of fast or 2 days of fast a week, and then they eat again. Now, the intermittent fasting patterns, whatever people prefer, do come with some contraindications for some people. For example, for people who have Hashimoto's, it's been shown that perhaps doing intermittent fasting, so this the 8-16 or fasting for 1 day and not that doesn't necessarily actually bring them a lot of positive outcomes. I'm not quite entirely sure why. Maybe because the immune system is compromised and it's very reactive, and that could be the problem. But there's literature showing that that's not a good one to have to do it for. On the other side, for people with digestive disorder, actually having a longer fast, not eating before bed, so stop eating around 6, even earlier if you can, it has really good positive impact, and allows the gut to actually really settle and not always work, and it can really work very well. So again, you can see that the approach needs to be tailored to the person, which is why working with someone is really important. The other tip is to really stay open-minded to the fact that when you're trying something new, it is new and you don't know how you will react, and it can be completely amazing, or it can be the worst thing you've ever done, or it could be something that interim until you get where you want to go, it can be a little bit of a hard road. For example, as I mentioned before, there are people with dysbiosis. If you start inserting more fiber in your diet, fiber is good, but you might react terribly to it. And so what do? Well, first you have to understand how to calm the digestive system, support the organs that are involved in this. So a lot of herbs, from a naturopathic point of view, herbs are amazing for supporting the organs. That's what we work with. And then we have introduction, which is actually the tough part, because literally you are looking at maybe introducing one chickpea. Let's say beans are your problems, or pulses are your problems. One chickpea, one bean at a time, so that you don't react to it, because you want your microbiome to get used to that food. This is the tough part. That's where it really requires a lot of commitment. And when people get scared and just stop, because they're like, oh my God, I ate a chickpea, like a bowl of chickpeas, and oh my God, I was on the loo, and I was gassy, and I was constipated, and I had diarrhea. I mean, everything and anything in between. And it's scary, and it's horrible, and it's uncomfortable. Who wants to go through that? I have. It's not fun. So it's best to that muscle, and it takes commitment and time. So working with somebody that can encourage you is really, really key, because most people will like, if it's a problem, we stop it. This is actually the approach of a lot of doctors. When you have gastroenterological issues, they will say, just stop the food. But you're not solving the problem, you're just removing the trigger. So the problem is that you have dysbiosis, right? The trigger is the food. How do we make sure that you don't have dysbiosis anymore, and the trigger is not a trigger anymore? That's the approach. So I wanted to really share this because it's really, really important. A lot of people miss on amazing things. Now, there are some cases where there is extreme issues. There are extreme issues, and that's a different that's a different ball game, right? There's a very small percentage of the population that maybe can't even process fiber because of a different issue. Like, there is something deeper to work with, and in that case, quite honestly, yeah, it's tough, and you have to really be appreciative that there might be an approach that is different for them, and you know, and those people work with a team of medical doctors and coaches and professionals that can support them, because that approach can be mentally stressful when a food can make you so sick that you are not operational, where your whole life is not functioning. So compassion is really, really important, but also understanding that we are all facing different issues sometimes. And although in naturopathy, what I love is that the approach can be the same. How do we go about it? Well, we cleanse the lymphatic system, we cleanse the gut, and we cleanse the kidneys. After that's done, we support the other organs that are involved in any metabolic work, and then we'll see what happens. So that doesn't take a month, that doesn't take a week, that can take years, right? So commitment is something. Generally, people see an improvement after 6 months already, which is brilliant, but it takes patience. My friend Sky, who has Sky Roar as a channel, she's amazing. Her story is incredible. I had her on a podcast. When she shared her story, I was literally in tears, because I couldn't believe how someone can go through it, and she's a ray of sunshine. She doesn't have a stomach anymore. She does not have a stomach anymore, and yet she thrives on a raw diet, and she has been, being amazing for a long time. Now, she got shingles again because, of course, her body is still compromised, and sometimes if anything happens, maybe exposure, maybe stress, maybe lack of sleep, whatever can trigger her into something. And she has been on a juice fast for 29 days now. It's the only thing she can really do to help her body at this moment in time. But she's having, of course, juices that are basically salads and lots of fruit, and she's still moving her body, and she has a journey shared on YouTube. I'll link her channel on here so you can watch her sharing, because it's amazing. She's very open and candid about her journey, which is not always linear, and it's not always straightforward, and it's not always amazing. There's a lot of commitment to a health that she has, but this is why she's actually an amazing, inspirational human, because she doesn't just talk, she lives it. And I can pride myself of having that experience. When I talk about my nutrition, my journey, I talk about it very holistically, because it's not just the food, but the food is such a big part of it. I understand what people feel because I've been through it, and I sometimes still go through it. Like, when I talk about hormones, guys, I'm not just talking about, the biology of it. Let me tell you, last week I was ovulating, and I felt like I was 15 kilos overweight. And I'm not, but I felt it. I felt horrible. My digestion was a mess last week. And so, that's all hormonal. And I'm like, oh my God. And I wasn't eating anything different, but I had to actually tweak what I was eating, right? So I was looking at the foods, and I was like, interesting. So during ovulation, for example, your estrogen increases. And I thought, you know what? Let me try and decrease estrogen-rich food like tofu. And it did work. So I'm like, great. And there are ways that we can adjust our nutrition to our hormonal cycle, and I shared that in one of the episodes before, but I'm happy to actually share it again. I have an episode with Adele Smith, who actually talks about this, the cycle, our cycle, and what to do, what to eat when we are through that cycle. And as you listen to your body, you'll see that it's very much in alignment, okay? So important to understand that these things, again, are not linear, and listening to your body and learning from your body, because the body talks to you always. It is an asset, and we all have to really learn to deal with it and to have it as an asset, as a tool in our pocket, because it will make our life so much easier. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. And the last point that I like to bring forth is no judgment. Do not judge yourself. And if you are on a program, are changing your lifestyle and your habits, and you slip off, do not be harsh with yourself. Be kind with yourself and just say, okay, I messed up today, I'll make it up tomorrow. It's completely fine. In fact, you know what? It builds a muscle. I'm really convinced. And so I am someone that doesn't like to stray, because then it messes up in my head. I'm not going to lie. But sometimes I will have a moment of compassion and be like, I am going to have something I don't usually have that makes me feel like I'm straying. And that, honestly, that can be a cooked meal, okay? And now I know I'm talking about the fact that I can be very strict with myself, and I need to I work on that, which is why I consciously will have certain foods that I cook, for example, and not stick to just raw, because I know that I can go extreme. That's my personality. It's just the way it is when it comes to health and nutrition. So I challenge myself to say, I'm gonna have some cooked food, even sometimes I'm gonna have more food, and it's okay. And then I'm okay with it. But it takes conscious effort. So if you're messing up, if you're straying, if you're having something unhealthy when you're usually having healthy foods now, to change your diet, just go back on track and you will be fine, because you haven't messed up all the work you've done up to now. That work has an impact on your body, on your genetics, on everything. So appreciate it, be grateful for it, and really be proud of yourself for even taking the step to do it, because a lot of people don't even begin it. Okay, so I love you. I'm so grateful for you as a community, and I really want you to feel connected to yourself. Please listen to your body. Any question, shoot them up to me. I am always happy to have a conversation. You can disagree, just do it respectfully, and we can chat further. And I look forward to chatting you more. Bye.